Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm doing something really special. I am a massive Harry Potter fan and I've decided to make the Hufflepuff Common Room. Now I'm not sure if I'm a Hufflepuff. When I was like 11 or whatever and did the Pottermore quiz, I came up as a Hufflepuff, but then when I became more of a teenager I decided I was more of a Slytherin, did the test again and I'm more of a Slytherin. But then in my adult life, I'm 26 now, I think I'm probably more of a Gryffindor, and my friends my whole life have told me, you're a Gryffindor, but I never wanted to believe it because I didn't want to be a Gryffindor because everyone else was Gryffindor. I had I want to be different syndrome. So I've just decided, go back to my roots, and I'm going to make the Hufflepuff Common Room, and it's a really special one because this is the biggest build I've ever made. I started out with some foam board. I am famously dreadful at cutting foam board, but I tried my best. This is like a thick one that I'm using for the bottom, so I drew out the shape of some wooden planks and we're going to paint those later. I'm just weathering them, giving them a bit more depth and stuff here by making the cuts a little bit deeper and putting some wood grain on them with my knife and some sandpaper. I then just mixed up a dark brown paint and put it in all of the crevices. There is actually a description on Pottermore of what the Hufflepuff Common Room is like, and I tried to follow that as much as possible. It says it's a low-ceilinged room with round windows looking out onto fields of daffodils with a cozy feel, that it's perpetually sunny. There's a portrait of Helga Hufflepuff above the fireplace. So yeah, I tried to follow that as much as possible. So I did buy some wooden, window frames from Etsy, but they didn't arrive in time and I got really impatient. So I decided to just take the measurements that were on the Etsy listing and cut out the holes before I had them. Don't do this, as you'll see later. That was a big mistake, but patience is a virtue that I simply do not have. Now here you can see I was trying to stick the wall to the base and it just was not happening. It wasn't gripping, it wasn't staying, so I had to cut this big rivet in the bottom of my base, and by doing that and pushing it in I actually cracked the wall, which is fine. I just glued it together later on, but it was annoying. But thankfully cutting the rivet really worked and it held the back wall in place really well. So I wanted my Hufflepuff Common Room to have some yellow wallpaper because in the description it says it's decorated with colours black and yellow, the be-like colours of Hufflepuff. But I didn't want it to be too yellow because I knew if I'd made this entire wall yellow, then we'd be in for a bit of a problem. So as you saw me do earlier, I carved out some stone with another bit of foam, and I'm going to be painting that to look like stonework as well. So we can have a little mantelpiece as well. So here I am, just popping that stone wall in place and just colouring it in, painting it as well now. I had this idea from, who was it? I watched someone do brickwork, because brickwork's always quite difficult, I find, especially if you're making it not brick by brick. But she said that you need to do it white first for the grout and then dry brush over the top in dark grey. So that's what I did. I then realised that the dark wood was a bit too dark because it was described as being honey-coloured wood on the Pottermore description, but it ended up being a bit darker than that, but that's fine. Obviously just making holes for where the windows are going to go now. Like I said earlier, you will see later on that I did mess this up a little bit because I made the holes a little bit too big, but it's fine. Yep, so here I am, just dry brushing the grey on. I'm really happy with how the stones turned out in the end. I think this is definitely how I'm going to do all of my terrain building in the future. Now I had this little fireplace that I think my friend got me this for Christmas or my birthday or something, from Slytherin and Gryffindor. Slytherin and Gryffindor is amazing for miniatures if you ever want to get some miniatures. And I took this old silicone straw that I had and glued it into the top so it could make like a little tube. I then made the mantelpiece, which I think brings it all together. As you can see, I'm not very careful with my measurements because I hate measuring. It's really boring. So a lot of my things are kind of off measuring wise, but it's fine because I just trim them down later and add kind of like a veneer around the whole thing. So I wanted to make like a half ceiling because I wanted to accentuate the room being low and having that cosy feel, but without putting a ceiling on the whole thing. So you'll see later that I did put a ceiling, but only halfway. I got these tiny little fairy lights online, and because where I've put the windows, I want you to be able to see out into the field of daffodils as it is described on Pottermore. So I decided to add some fairy lights in the back so that it would feel a bit more sunny, because I think the description is it feels perennially sunny, which I thought was lovely. So yeah, just sticking all of those fairy lights in place, making sure they're held on with a little bit of felt. So as you can see here, the lights work and it does look really cool, and it's going to look even better when I put the daffodils behind it. So I actually made the daffodils on ChatGPT. They have this like AI image making thing, and so I just made a few of those and stuck them on this bit of cardboard, which I then glued to the back. And when the lights are on, you can see through the windows into the field of daffodils, which is exactly what it says in the description. I'm really, really happy with how that turned out. So as you can see here, my disaster, my windows came and they did not fit the holes. So I had to make some window frames, which did look fine in the end, but I kind of wish I'd have been a bit more patient and just added the windows as they were. So yeah, I just cut the window frames out of some more foam and sanded them down with a nail file and then painted them black. So I had some of this perspex glass from an old photo frame, so I super glued it to the back because I wanted it to have like a glass look, and I really like how this turned out. I think it's a really fun little detail. So when I stick them on the wall, as you can see, it kind of obscures the view a little bit, but if you know it's there, it's a really fun detail. So now I am adding in some of my minis, adding in the fireplace that I made earlier, and I made loads and loads of minis for this Hufflepuff Common Room, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. I got a lot of my inspiration from Queen City Minis here on YouTube, so go check her out. I'm sure you already know her, but she's really great. So I got some felts and basically just started painting the Hufflepuff colours, so yellow and black, and I'm going to have this hanging on the back of my armchair, which is going to be really, really cute. I also decided, of course, I needed to make a wand, so I just took a toothpick and kind of whittled it down a little bit with my craft knife and then dipped it in some stain to make it a bit more brown. Next, I wanted to add some Hufflepuff pride because I feel like anyone who's a Hufflepuff knows that they get taken the piss out of all the time. So I wanted to make a banner for the Hufflepuff house to show that they recently won the Quidditch Cup or the House Cup or something. So I cut out all these little banners out of card and then crinkled them up a little bit to make them a bit more fabric looking, and then just drew black stripes on them and the Hufflepuff H as well. I then glued them all to a bit of twine and I think it looks really, really cute. A little like banner, Hufflepuff banner, I think it looks really sweet. Next, I bought some of these like real books, miniature books online, and I wanted to make some cool leather covers for them. So I took some coloured paper, crinkled it up to make it look like fabric again, and glued it onto the book. I then trimmed off the excess and weathered it a little bit by putting some watered down brown paint on it. And I think it makes for a really cool old looking book. Oh, and I put some gold detailing trim on the end as well. I also wanted to make like a little box of bits and bobs, so maybe like a student had come down to do their homework in the common room. So I decided to make a potions box. So here I am putting some little glass bottles that I had into this tiny little box that I again got from Slytherin Green. I then took one of the little books that I'd made and wrote the word potions on the front and then stuck that in the box as well. I added a bit of twine and a bit of foliage in there too to make it look like different ingredients that you could possibly use in a potions. Then I didn't want to use up loads and loads of my little mini books because some of these books would just be stacked on top of each other, and so I decided to cut out the same size with some foam and basically make lots of little books with the foam, so ones that don't open, but they still look really good and they're great for like stacking in the corner. Next, I saw this tip online for making miniature candles. I don't think mine turned out that well, but they're still pretty cool. Basically, you just put hot glue on a bit of twine, cut off the top, paint it white, and put a little black speck on the top of the twine, and you've got yourself a miniature candle. With this fireplace you saw earlier, I didn't really like the shine on it, so I just took some black matte paint, mixed it with some sand and made it a bit more rustic. I then wanted to make a rug, so I took this corduroy fabric from an old pair of jeans that I don't really wear anymore and just cut them into a circle. When I ripped the jeans when I was cutting them, it made this really cool fringe, so I decided to cut off that fringe and use it as a kind of trim for the rug as well, which I think that detail looks really, really good. I then put a bit of felt on the bottom, not entirely sure why I did this, but I guess to give it a bit more oomph. And yeah, I think it looks really cool. Just trim off the sides and you've got yourself a perfectly good rug. Like I said earlier, I made the image of the daffodils on ChatGPT. I also made the image of Helga Hufflepuff on ChatGPT. In the Hufflepuff Pottermore section, it says that she is toasting the students with the Hufflepuff cup, so I made sure to include that as well. To make the frame, in the description it did say it was had ornate badges on it. I just thought, I am not carving out teeny little badges. So I decided to get these tiny little beads and basically put them all over the frame. I then primed it in a kind of sandy colour and then wet brushed some gold on the top as well. I think this looks really cool for a frame. So as well as making minis, I also bought some minis. So here are some of the minis that I bought. We've got a sofa, we've got some plants, we've got some little cakes and bits and bobs, because the Hufflepuff Common Room, if you don't know, is right next to the kitchens. So I imagine they've always got sweet treats on the go in there. Got this little table as well, which I thought was really cute. I didn't end up using all of these, but I really love that mirror as well, but it just didn't fit in the diorama this time. This teacup was a really, really amazing find. It was it had such good weight to it, and I thought I'm definitely using that. Look at the tiny cutlery, I actually can't believe that. I thought to add a little more Harry Potter spin, I would paint the Grim inside this teacup. It does just look a little bit like a splodge, but if you use your imagination, then I'm sure you can understand what I was trying to do there. Next, I added all of my minis into my diorama, put the scarf that I made on the chair, which looks so cute. And I'm not going to show you putting in every single mini because I want to reveal it at the end. So stay tuned to the end of the video to see it in all its glory. Thanks for watching.